Hello, I'm Yeow Pooi Ling. The government has proposed an allocation of 191.5 billion ringgit for the 2010 budget, which is 11% lower than the revised allocation of 215.7 billion ringgit for this year. Of the total allocation, 72% is for operating expenditure and 28% for development. Under operating expenditure, 42.2 billion ringgit is allocated for salaries, 20.8 billion ringgit for supplies and services, while 73.9 billion ringgit is for fixed charges and grants. A sum of 524 million ringgit is provided for purchase of assets and the remaining 800 million ringgit for other expenditure. Under development expenditure, 25.4 billion ringgit is provided for the economic sector to support the needs of infrastructure, industry and agriculture, as well as rural development. 20.3 billion ringgit is allocated to the social sector, encompassing education and training, health, welfare, housing and community development. 3.7 billion ringgit is for the development of the security sector, 1.8 billion ringgit for general administration, and 2 billion ringgit for contingencies. The federal government revenue next year is expected to reduce by 8.4% to 148.4 billion ringgit. Consequently, the federal government deficit is expected to be in a better position at 5.6% of GDP versus 7.4% this year. The International Monetary Fund has forecast the global economy to contract at a slower rate of 1.1% this year, compared with earlier projection of negative 1.4%. Next year, the global economy is expected to grow strongly at 3.1%, with world trade expected to recover to grow at 2.5% from negative 11.9% this year. In tandem with the projections, Malaysia's economic contraction this year is estimated to be lower at 3% compared to the earlier projection of 4 to 5%. Next year, the economy is expected to expand 2% to 3%, with all sectors projecting positive growth and the services sector remaining the main driver. Economic growth will be supported by private consumption at 2.9% and private investment recovering 3.4%. Inflation remains low between 1.5% and 2.5% and unemployment at below 4%. Per capita income of the rakyat is projected to increase 2.5% to ringgit Malaysia 24,661. Good news for general Malaysians, as individual income tax will be reduced by 1% next year, while personal relief will be increased from 8,000 ringgit to 9,000 ringgit. The existing personal tax relief of 6,000 ringgit for EPF contribution and life insurance premiums will be increased to 7,000 ringgit. For those without an EPF account, the government will establish the 1Malaysia retirement scheme to be administered by EPF. Such individuals will be able to contribute voluntarily according to affordability. For every 100 ringgit contribution, the government will contribute 5% subject to a maximum of 60 ringgit per annum for 5 years. To ensure uninterrupted electricity supply, the Naga Nasional Berhad will spend 5 billion ringgit to implement electricity generation, transmission and distribution projects next year, including the hydroelectric project in Ulu Jelai, Pahang and Hulu Terengganu. In enhancing public-private partnership, the projects that will be implemented next year include the constructions of an integrated immigration, customs and quarantine complex in Bukit Kayu Hitam, 6 UiTM campuses and the Matrix Centre. To promote corporate social responsibility, the 1Malaysia Development Berhad will set up a CSR fund totaling 100 million ringgit as a start to finance community activities. To strengthen R&D activities, a National Innovation Centre will be established, integrate patent and research agencies and provide SMEs with tax incentives. The tourism industry will receive 899 million ringgit next year. Some of the programs include attracting Britain, Japan, South Korea, the Middle East, India and China to participate in the Malaysia My Second Home program and improving infrastructure in tourism centres. An allocation of 11.3 billion ringgit is targeted for the implementation of high-speed broadband. The speed of 10 megabytes per second will be provided in Kuala Lumpur and Selangor by end March next year, and to be expanded to other areas nationwide between 2010 and 2012. The government also proposes that individual taxpayers be given tax relief on broadband subscription fee up to 500 ringgit a year from 2010 to 2012. The agriculture sector will receive 6 billion ringgit for upgrade of infrastructure, entrepreneur training and development of food farming. Farmers and fishermen will receive subsidies, incentives and assistance amounting to almost 2 billion ringgit. For construction, 9 billion ringgit is provided to finance infrastructure projects. A sum of 2.3 billion ringgit is slotted for infrastructure in rural areas. The government is also allocating 350 million ringgit to SME Corp for soft loans, capacity building as well as branding and promotion. Another 538 million ringgit will be allocated for the implementation of SME development programs. To promote green technology, a fund of 1.5 billion ringgit will be set aside as soft loans to companies that supply and utilize green technology. For the creative content industry, 200 million ringgit of Creative Industry Fund is set up as source for soft loans. The education sector is again a big beneficiary of the budget. Primary and secondary education will receive 30 billion ringgit. Preschool education, meanwhile, is allocated 48 million ringgit to increase the participation of children. The government will also provide 1.3 billion ringgit for management and upgrading of polytechnics and community colleges, as well as provide an education loan fund to benefit 32,000 students. As for higher education institutions, they will be given greater autonomy in managing their finance, human resources, administration, student intake and income generation. To increase participation in the capital market, the government is liberalising the commission sharing arrangements between stockbrokers and remisers, allowing 100% foreign equity participation in corporate finance and financial planning companies, and requiring all public listed companies to offer e-dividend. For Islamic finance, the existing tax incentives will be extended to 2015. This includes stamp duty exemptions, tax exemption on banking profits derived from overseas operations and deductions on expenditure. To support the implementation of private sector projects in regional corridors, the government will allocate 3.5 billion ringgit for infrastructure and basic amenities, as well as implement training programs and socio-economic projects. For credit card users, the government will impose a service tax of 50 ringgit a year on each principal credit card and charge card and 25 ringgit for each supplementary card. Vehicle-approved permit holders will be imposed 10,000 ringgit for each permit. The government, targeting to reduce the crime index by 5%, is allocating 1 billion ringgit to further improve the police force. About 48 million ringgit will be used to implement urban poverty eradication programs, including welfare assistance and house rental payment, while 200 million ringgit will be provided under the Ministry of Housing and Local Government to rehabilitate low and medium-cost houses. For healthcare, about 14.8 billion ringgit is allocated to manage, build and upgrade hospitals and clinics. For more details on the budget, go to thestar.com.my. I'm Yeow Pooi Ling. Thanks for watching.